More and more people are using stock tanks, cattle watering troughs, as containers for gardening, and that's a pretty good choice. They come in various sizes. They're usually 2 to 3 feet long and maybe ranging from 12 to 14 inches tall, and some of the taller ones can get up to 2 feet or more. Now, of course, they do look like stock tanks. There are ways around that, though, and if you're going to use it for gardening, there are some things you should do before you start planting. We are with Gail Pothauer. Gail, of course, in the vegetable section here at the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center, a Sacramento County master gardener. Gail, I like the way your stock tanks here at the Fair Oaks Horticulture Center have been displayed to let people know that drainage is key for these.
Oh, absolutely. Stock tanks are intended to hold water for cattle and horses. So there's no drain holes. There's a little spigot at the bottom to drain it out, but you need to put in some kind of drainage in the bottom. So we have drilled 1-inch holes, or the largest drill bit we could find, many holes in the bottom. And then when we set them on the ground, we have them raised up a little bit. So they're not sitting right on the ground because the soil then can block that hole. So our deeper tanks we have sitting on blocks. And then we also have another tank that is only about 12 inches deep, and we have it raised up on some wooden supports. We built like a little table for it so that it's a little bit higher. You don't have to bend over to garden in it. So it's a little bit easier to work with. They both have the drain holes and good potting soil. Want some good potting mix that you put in there that drains well, and treat it like any other large container where you would, keep it irrigated, fertilize a little more frequently, maybe half strength, because it's going to drain through.
And you can use one of the holes that you've drilled on the bottom to snake your drip irrigation system up into it using 1/4-inch pipe to put whatever sort of irrigation you want on top, either the drippers or the sprayers.
Or the hole that's at the bottom on the side, it has a little cap on it so that you could drain the water out. When you use it as a stock tank for water, you could snake the irrigation up through that.
Right. And I mentioned the fact that because it is a container, the world of soils is your choice for what you put in it. And if you are growing an acidic-loving plant like blueberries, you can use something that the blueberries would prefer, of around a 5.5 to a 6.0 pH, which is very acidic. But that could be as simple as a combination of, say, peat moss and a camellia rhododendron azalea soil and some small bark. Mix that in perhaps with a handful of soil sulfur, and that will keep it acidic for quite a while. I'm not sure how often, though, you have to update the soil, though, in these containers.
Well, we reuse our soil as long as we haven't had a disease or any problem in it. So we reuse the soil when we take out our annual planting and replant the next season. We'll always enrich it with some compost, maybe some more potting soil, because it does break down over time, and so the soil level does decrease. And we fertilize, and we're very conscious of the fact that if we've had plants the previous season that had problems, we don't want to reuse the soil then. So you got to be careful, because you can carry diseases over and that sort of thing.
Now, the silver color of the stock tanks can be a little glaring for a lot of people, but you can paint them if you take into consideration the fact this is galvanized steel and you have to prepare it for a special paint. The special paint is best called tractor paint. If you go to any good rural store, like a tractor supply store, you'll find rows and rows of spray paint intended for tractors and tractors' favorite colors like orange and blue and red. And you have to prepare the tank, though, for painting, usually I like to use trisodium phosphate, TSP, and wash it and clean it thoroughly before painting it.
Yeah, I've yet to do that. You did give me all the information about where to get the paint and that sort of thing. Mine are still the silver, the galvanized that I have at home. Someday I'll get around to doing it. I know some people have said that they didn't want to grow in the galvanized tanks because they thought it gets too hot. And the research that I have looked into, I've looked at different university sites and other websites to see if that's true. And actually, it reflects the heat. If you had a real dark color, say you painted it black or something, like a big black nursery pot, those absorb the heat. So that does cause a little more heating of the potting soil and could harm the roots. So everything that I've seen says that the galvanized, as long as it's still that shinier, a lighter color, reflects the heat and doesn't get hot, maybe right at the edge of the pot, perhaps, but there doesn't seem to be an issue. And I've grown at home, I have citrus in one of the stock tanks, and in the other one, I grow annual vegetables, and I haven't had any trouble. And they're on the hot side of my house. So far, no problem. And out here, we're in full sun.
Hello, free subscribers. Welcome again to the podcast paywall. There's a lot more information about gardening and water troughs ahead in today's podcast, but it's for paid subscribers only. It includes information including why you may not want to grow blueberries or other acid soil-loving plants in a galvanized watering trough. We look at the pros and cons of using galvanized steel in the garden. We talk about thwarting water draining issues in those watering troughs as well, and we've got tips for painting watering troughs for the garden. And we have more information in the podcast and the newsletter for paid subscribers about why you don't want to use any filler material in the bottom of the container. And Gail has some tips on how you can save money on potting soil and still have a productive watering trough garden. And as usual, paid subscribers have access to an accurate transcript of today's podcast, along with links to more information about what we discussed. Paid subscribers also get, besides the Friday publication, an extra newsletter each week with even more garden tips for success. Beyond the Garden Basics subscriptions are reasonably priced, just $5 a month or $50 a year. And your support helps keep the newsletter and podcast alive. And, by the way, it keeps me alive, too. I appreciate your eyes and ears on the Beyond the Garden Basics newsletter and podcast. And you can find it all at substack.com/gardenbasics. Thank you very much.